Welcome to the Real Board Loft. I'm Forman, and today we're going to be talking about what's the big deal with performance fins in your kitesurf board. Here we have the Maurice Cole MTB kitesurf board. It's a board specifically made for kite surfing, shaped by legendary surfboard shaper Maurice Cole, made in Hydroflex technology. It's got a special blank glued together with triple stringers, and on this board specifically, the Future fin box system. There's several different fin box systems out there. Futures and FCS are the two main ones worldwide where you can get fins, or even more importantly, get replacement fins when you're on a trip and your fin breaks. So those are the two you always want to look at. But what we're talking about today is we're talking about what's the big deal with upgrading to performance fins. The bottom line when we're looking at this is, in the first place, is why do boards come with plastic fins? The reason that boards come with plastic fins is you take a board like this and you build it to the highest level of technology that you possibly can, and then all of a sudden at the finish line you realize, hey, we're up against a price ceiling here. This board can't sell for more than X, so the only way that we can keep it under X is to put plastic fins on it. And whether you're looking at kite surf boards or whether you're looking at pure like paddle surfing boards, all of those industries are up against those same price levels where you're going to lose a lot less people interested in the board if you go above that price. And that's why you see a lot of great boards. Like this is the highest end board that you could ever see in kite surfing, and on this board specifically we chose to supply it with no fins rather than supply it with plastic fins. But other boards, you'll see boards just at this same level or close, and they'll come with plastic fins. The reason being is that they have to keep it below that price. So knowing that and being educated about that is really important, because I think a lot of people are, when they see those plastic fins on that awesome board, they're like, oh, well, that's what I'm supposed to ride. But when you ride those plastic fins, this is what you're going to feel. The board itself is going to work the way that the board was meant to perform, but the plastic fins are going to be bending and flexing, potentially humming if there's seams still in the fin from when the plastic fin came out of the plastic mold. And all of these things are going to be hampering the performance of your board going in a straight line. The plastic fins, when you're kite surfing on the board, get loaded up to the point where the plastic fins are going to snap off the board eventually. And then also when you're learning to, or if you already are at the stage where you're loading your turns and then unloading them to get spring out of your turns, the plastic fins will bend off to one side, and then they really won't flex you out of the turn. They won't spring you out of the turn like a good fiberglass fin would. So when you add the better fins to the whole package, you end up actually having fins that work as good as this high-tech board that you've invested the money into, on a bunch of different levels. One is that they're not going to snap off and just shear off right at the box. The next thing being is that when you load the fin up in a turn, like when you really load that fin up in the turn, it's gonna spring back more quickly and push you out of the turn. Actually give you, you're wanting your board to actually flex and release, and you're wanting your fins to load up and release, and that's what's giving you the drive and the spring out of your bottom turn and out of your top turn when you're trying to generate speed. If you think about it this way, if you had a plastic snowboard or a plastic set of skis, you would load up that turn waiting for the spring to happen, and it would never happen. It would just keep loading up and it would just keep bending, and it would never spring you out of the turn. It's the same way with your fins. The plastic fins, if you're riding the board dead flat, real slow, straight downwind, they're awesome. But if you're really riding powered up and really loading and releasing your turns at any size of a kite surfer, it makes a big difference to go with the better fins. A lot of people look at, how big the board is compared to the fins, and they're like, there's no possible way that the fins could have that big of an impact. But when you look at when you're up and planing and how much of the wetted surface is the fins, it's about 50% of the wetted surface of the board. If the water's breaking here, and you look at all the wetted surface on both sides of these fins, the fins is about 50% of the wetted surface. So it does make a big deal, and the energy that you could add to the board and the speed that you can add to the board, the control that you can add to the board by having better fins and performance fins is significant compared to the plastic fins. So looking, there's basically two different ways that you're probably going to be looking at buying your kite surf board. One is with the plastic fins, and what do you do with those fins? They're great for just taking off your board, putting them in the glove box of your car, and having them as a backup set in the event that you do break or lose your fiberglass ones. The other way you could get your board is like the way that this board's equipped is with no fins. That's a good way to get the board as well, because then you can dial in the specific size fin and the design fin that suits the waves that you're going to be riding. And we'll talk a little bit about that later in the next episode of this series. But those are basically the two ways you're going to find your kitesurf boards, is with plastic fins or with no fins at all. Putting those better fiberglass fins is going to give you a more durable fin. It's going to give you more load and release out of those turns to help generate more speed on the waves, and it's just going to make the board perform better. So if you're investing money into that part of the sport, into getting into the waves, into having a good kite surf board for the waves, fiberglass fins are definitely going to make a big difference. So, you'll see several different constructions. You'll see more of a full fiberglass construction. Then you'll also see like a honeycomb, like a foam honeycomb core with fiberglass cloth on the outside, and both of those are great construction for the fins. So think about it. Think about what you're pushing on, and just, if you have anything to remember from this entire video, is actually think about riding a plastic snowboard and loading it up in a turn, and if it will ever spring out. That's the bottom line on the better fins. Is you wouldn't ride a plastic surfboard, you wouldn't ride a plastic snowboard, and you wouldn't ride a plastic skis. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any more questions, you can check out our website, realwatersports.com, or you can email us at realpro@realwatersports.com.